Hello! I've been playing a lot of baritone ukulele recently, so I thought I'd make a tutorial of one of my favorite pieces to play this time of year. This is an arrangement of Greensleeves done in a chord melody style using just the thumb of the playing hand, and it allows you to get a really rich, full melodic sound, and on a baritone you get that nice depth of harmony with the lower strings. Now this arrangement does work on a high G and a low G ukulele as well. It's just going to sound different because it's a different key here on the baritone. Sounds something like this though, bringing the camera down. It's a beautiful melody. It's a ton of fun to play. I'm going to have the tabs here on screen as we work, and if you want to check out more lessons, be sure to check out the description down below to find a copy of this tab as well as other lessons like this. We're going to start here with the first three measures and the pickup bar. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, we're only using our thumb to play this. This is a technique that I call the rest stroke, and all that it is, super zooming in here for a moment, is plucking a string and resting your thumb on the next string down. So when I play the fourth string here, I rest it on the third. When I play the third, I rest it on the second. When I play the second, I rest it on the first. And when I play the first, I kind of imagine that there's another string here. The gist of this is to kind of go inward with the thumb to create that nice sound that allows you to play things really individually and wonderfully. I've actually got a video linked right over here on this that you can check out more. Bring the camera back out. This is what this first few bars should sound like. So how we play this? Well, we're going to start with just open on our first string. Then we're going to play this beautiful E minor chord. I like to play this with my second fret here on my fourth string with my index finger. And then I like to use my ring finger here on the third fret of the first string. So 2, 0, 0, 3, strum through. I'm going to play 5 on the first string with my pinky finger here. And then I'm going to slide this pinky up to 7, take the other fingers off, and strum through all 4 strings. Creates this nice G chord. Then some pinky work here. Pinky's going to go up to 8, and back down to 7. Before now going on to the second measure, where we're going to play this modified D chord by taking our pinky finger, sliding it down 2 frets to 5, adding our index finger right here on the second fret of the third string, and our middle finger here on the third fret of the second string. So we have 0, 2, 3, and 5. Now a trick, when you play this chord, if you take this index finger and you kind of set up a little bar here with it, it makes this next note, which is the 2 on the first string, much easier to play because I take that pinky finger off and that index bar is covering it. Going into the B minor chord now, I'm going to leave my middle finger where it is, add the ring finger on the fourth fret of the third string here and take the index off, strum through my fourth, third, and second strings, stopping on the first string. Then I'm going to play the first string open, and then the first string on the second fret. Now here's a little thing. It could be very tempting to just add the second fret here, right? Because it's this chord. However, I like to use my middle finger here on this second fret of the first string. And the reason is because right after you play that, you go to this E minor that we played at the start of the tune. And by doing this, my middle finger can kind of be a pivot point for my index to get up here to the fourth fret of the fourth string, or excuse me, the second fret of the fourth string, and my ring finger to get here on the third fret of the first string, right? So it kind of acts as a pivot. If you do it with this, it's just a lot of jumping around. And then I'm going to play open on the first string, before playing the C chord, 2, 0, 1, 0, middle finger on the second fret of the fourth string, index finger here on the first fret of the second string, strum through all 4. Then take your pinky, stretch out to 4 on the second, and then open. So this whole stanza, the pickup bar into measures 1, 2, and 3, should sound something like this. Going into now measures 4, 5, 6, and 7, it should sound something like this. How do we play this? It's a little different and a lot similar, and that's what makes it challenging. You might notice I had a little delay there, and it's because there's some similarities that make this in some ways a little more challenging than if it was all different. So let's go ahead and start here on the measure 4. We're going to play this B7, 1, 2, 0, 2, index finger on the 1st fret of the 4th string, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and the ring finger here on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. I'm going to strum through all 4. Then I'm going to stretch my pinky out here to 4 on the 2nd string. Now, if fingers have to come off for that, that's okay. The goal, though, is to leave those fingers in play. And then after I've played that 4th fret, I'm going to go back to this B7. I'm going to play the 1, 2, and 0, stopping here on that 1st string. Then I'm going to play open on the 1st string. I can just take my hands off if I want there. But you'll notice this index and ring finger, they were right here, right? Well, for this next chord on the E minor here on measure 5, we slide them up. And here's what's cool. When we play this E minor on measure 5, this is exactly the same as the E minor on measure 1. Goes to the same 5, goes to the same 7 with the G chord. Same 8, back to 7. Same slide down to 5, adding the rest of this D chord. Same 2 on the 1st string. Same B minor chord. Same open on the 1st string, and same 2nd fret on the 1st string as well. However, it does change when we go on to measure 7. Instead of going to the E minor chord that we did earlier on measure 3, this time we go to this C chord. And this is tricky. This is what I was alluding to, where it's almost harder because it's so similar. We have to use our middle finger here on this 2nd fret of the 4th string, our index finger here on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, and then there's an option here. You can either use your ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, or if that's too big of a stretch, it's okay to use your pinky finger here on the 3rd fret of that 1st string, as long as you get your 2, 0, 1, 3. There is some cool things about using the pinky here in that you then play 2 on the 1st string, and you can just take this ring finger and kind of put it in underneath, and then play open. The hard part about that, though, is setting it up. And that takes some practice. But then from there, we go to this modified B7 chord. Just take your index, bar it across the 4th fret, and then we're going to pluck our 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, stopping on that 1st string there. Then 6 on the 3rd string with our ring finger here, and then 4 on the 2nd string, which is already there. And that wraps up those measures 4, 5, 6, and 7, which in time should sound something like this. Pretty neat, right? Going on to the next 4 measures, measures 8 through 11, they should sound something like this. So how do we play this? Well, it's going to start here with our E minor chord. It's a simpler way, though. We just play the 2nd fret here on the 4th string. And it doesn't really matter which finger you use. We just came from this, so I like to use the 1st finger there just to play it twice all the way through. Then we're going to slide all the way up to the 10th fret on the 1st string using our pinky finger here. This is a big pinky exercise because after we strum through that once, we're going to do it again. Then we're going to play 9 and 7 on the 1st string with the pinky. Now here's a trick. Keep the pressure with the pinky. Get that nice little slide type of sound as you go through. This is a good exercise to get that pinky involved with playing. As we go into the 10th measure, we slide that pinky down again to the 5th fret of the 1st string, and we re-add our index here on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string and our middle finger here on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string to make that same little modified D chord that we did earlier in the tune on measures 2 and 6. And in fact, this part right here is exactly the same as measures 2 and 6, because we play this chord, then we play the 2nd fret on the 1st string by taking our pinky off, having that bar there, right? Then we play the 0, 4, 3, same thing that we did before, and that's going to be for that B minor chord. And then we're going to play open on the 1st string, and then the 2 on the 1st string. Same with our middle finger here, because it goes back to that same E minor 2, 0, 0, 3 that we did on measure 3, followed by the open 1st string, followed by the C chord, which is exactly the same we did on measure 3, and the 4 on the 2nd string, and open on the 1st. So it's a lot of repetition there. Measures 10 and 11 being exactly the same as measures 2 and 3 were, which is kind of neat. So that whole stanza, measures 8, 9, 10, and 11, should sound something like this. And as we go into the final 4, or final 5 measures rather, measures 12 through the end of 16, should sound something like this. Now what's convenient about this is it starts with a lot of familiar stuff, because measure 12 is almost the same as what we did on measure 4 with that B7 chord, 1, 2, 0, 2, strum through all 4 strings. Add the 4th fret here on the 2nd string, remember that big stretch from earlier? Then take it off and play the 1, 2, and 0, stopping on the 1st string. That's exactly the same as what we played in measure 4, only measure 4 had the open on the 1st string at the end of it. This one just sits on this chord for a moment. And then as we go on to measure 13, well, measure 13 should look familiar, because it's exactly the same as what we just did in measure 9. Same 0, 0, 0, 10, pinky work, do it twice, and then pinky slides down to 9, slides down to 7. Remember, maintain the contact with the pinky and get that nice legato sound. And then slide it down to 5 and add the D chord. And the 2 on the 1st string, and then same B minor chord, same open, and same 2. All of this is exactly the same because measure 14 is exactly the same as measure 10 was, which is exactly the same as measure 2 was, which is also the same as measure 6. A lot of repetition here. After we've done that, we go on to this measure 15, and 15 and 16 are new. These are not something we've played up until this point. To play it, we're going to play that E minor in the same way we've been doing, so that's why we want to make sure we use the middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the 1st string going into it, so that we can use index on 2 of the 4th string, ring finger on 3 of the 1st string, strum through all 4 strings, then 2 on the 1st string with the middle finger there, and then open on the 1st string. Take this index finger, pivot it so it's straight up and down, and slide it up to 4 with a bar. So we're going to bar across the 4th fret. So it goes from the 2 on the 4th string to a bar across 4, and it needs to go over the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. I have it go across all 4. I don't need to make sure it can play the 1st string because we're not playing that note, but just having it bar across helps give you a good tone. And if you're struggling with that bar chord, just make sure you get right up next to that fret wire. That really helps. I'm going to strum through my 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, stopping at the 1st. Add the 6 right here on the 3rd string, the 4 on the 2nd string, before going to the last measure, sliding this index back down to 2, 0, 0, 0, so it comes off the bar. And then for a little embellishment here, at the end, some harmonics. Now, if you already know how to do harmonics, it's just the harmonic at 12. For those of you that don't, harmonics are a pretty crazy technique. What we actually do is we take a look at the 12th fret right here, right? See, I'm not in between the frets. I'm actually on the wire itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to push down. I'm just going to lightly touch the strings, and I'm not going to really compress it at all. I'm just going to make contact. I'm going to make sure that I'm right over the fret wire. And as I pluck these strings, you'll hear kind of this muted bell-like sound. That's without my index moving at all. As I do that, as soon as I feel the string vibrate, I remove the index finger away to let it breathe out. It's really important to not remove the index until you hear those notes start to ring. Otherwise, you're going to get this sound. And that's no fun. But that gives you that nice, rich ending. And so that you can hear it, measures 12 through the end should sound something like this. Isn't that wonderful? Bringing the camera back up. I love this tune. It's a lot of fun to play. What I like about this tune is it's especially good this time of year because it's kind of, got the holiday vibes, but it's one that you can play year round. And it's a really wonderful one to start exploring the baritone ukulele with because you get this deep resonant sound. This G chord here, I love that sound. It's so big. This one here, right? The D chord to the G chord. Love that sound. So my hope is that you can have as much fun with this arrangement as I've had playing it on the baritone. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll see you next time on the next tutorial here. Again, if you'd like to download the tab of this, as well as many other holiday hits, it's all available on my Patreon page, link down below and in the card over here. Thank you so much. Take it easy. Happy holidays. Talk to you soon.